We'll move to question time. I call Senator Patterson.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. When did the Prime Minister first become aware that Labor's tax legislation would impose what has become known as the widow's tax?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Wong.
Well, first, I think I think that is a title in your party room and that you keep utilising. I think we have been clear that it is the case that grandfathering arrangements do need to ensure that scenario is addressed. The Treasurer, I think, made it very clear on Insiders on Sunday that the government would address it. And we will do so. But I again remind those opposite and Senator Patterson, it's interesting that the opposition are not arguing against really most of the policy.
You want to Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Patterson.
Thanks, President. The Minister's reflections on the opposition are interesting but not directly relevant to a 22-word question.
Thank you, Senator Patterson. The Minister has been relevant to your question and I will continue to listen carefully. Minister Wong.
I again say the Treasurer has made clear it will be resolved. It is an issue of the extent of grandfathering arrangements, and obviously in an ambitious set of tax policies it's not unusual for there to be various tranches of legislation, and that's what we intend to do to resolve it. But, Senator, it is reasonable for me to point out you're not even arguing against the policy anymore. Because you know that the housing market, the status quo in the housing market is not sustainable and was not sustainable. And you know that continuing to give investors an unfair advantage over first home buyers is not sustainable.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Cash.
President, it is relevant, and with all due respect, Senator Wong has admitted legislating the tax. The question was quite specific. When did the Prime Minister first become aware that the tax would be legislated?
Thank you, Senator Cash. I will draw the Minister back to your question. Minister Wong.
I think the government was very clear on budget night that there would be a number of tranches of legislation, and we have been clear with the Australian people that. We have been clear with the Australian people that there would be more than one tranche of legislation, including to deal with this issue, but also to deal with the start-up exemptions, to deal with testamentary trusts. There are a range of issues that we know will require further consideration after consultation, and the government has been doing that and will continue to do that.
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Before I come to you, I'll remind the Senate it's absolutely fine to rise on points of order, but if you rise on a point of order, I expect you to listen in silence to the response. Senator Patterson, first supplementary.
I'm up to my first sup. No, all good. Thank you. My question, once the Prime Minister became aware that his legislation contained a widow's tax, what action did he take to prevent the parliament from legislating it?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Wong.
Well, this is ambitious legislation that has passed the parliament in order to ensure that we give first-home buyers a fair crack at the housing market, because we believe that is fair. And I note, President, that those opposite have not been able to argue that point. They have not been able to argue that point. This legislation also provided tax cuts for working people, also voted against by those opposite. I note that they are not asking questions about 13 million Australians getting a tax cut. No, you don't want to talk about tax cuts.
Senator Patterson.
Sorry, President. On direct relevance, I asked what action did the Prime Minister take. I haven't heard any yet.
Thank you, Senator Patterson. And you're talking about legislation that passed the parliament last week, and the minister is being relevant. Minister Wong, please continue.
And what I would say is that we were clear from announcement on budget night that there would be more than one tranche of legislation. The core of the reforms, the big moving parts of the reforms, were legislated in this parliament against the opposition of those opposite, and we made clear that there are a range of other matters there where there would be more tranches of legislation coming, including in relation to these grandfathering issues.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Patterson, second supplement.
Thank you, President. Why did the Prime Minister force every member of caucus, including all the senators here, to vote for a widow's tax? And what other defects are there in Labor's tax package that the government has identified but still not disclosed to the parliament?
Thank you. Order. Order. Order across the chamber. Order. Senator Ayres, Senator Watt. Order. Senator Patterson. Minister Wong.
Well, every member of the Labor caucus was proud to vote for tax cuts for working people. Every member of the Labor caucus was proud to vote for tax changes which ensured first home buyers had a fair crack at the market. Every member of the Labor caucus was prepared to vote for, proud to vote for fairer tax arrangements. You see, we on this side, unlike you opposite, we actually have a collective decision-making process, and we know who we stand for and what we believe in, and that makes us really unique when compared to those opposite, because you do not know who you are, what you stand for, or what you represent. You don't know whether you're chasing Senator Hanson or the Teals. You don't know who you are, what you stand for. We do.
Order. Order across the chamber. Order. Order. Senator Patterson, I've called order. That was a disgraceful display. This is not a football match. It is not your role, particularly those on my left, to yell louder than the minister. You ask a question, the answer is given, and you listen in silence. Senator Tyrrell.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. From tomorrow, the 1st of July, Australians will be receiving even more cost of living relief, including an additional tax cut and help at the checkout. Can the Minister outline the important measures that will come into effect from tomorrow and explain the Albanese Labor government's approach to helping Australians with the cost of living?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Minister Wong.
And I thank Senator Tyrrell for her question. I thank her for her support for workers, including casual workers and parents in Tasmania. And Senator Tyrrell knows that every Tasmanian, in fact every Australian worker, will benefit from the cost of living measures that the Albanese government has introduced, which are kicking in from tomorrow, the 1st of July. We are delivering real cost of living help to the people of Australia. That has always been a priority for this government since the day we were elected and for the 1,500 days since. And tomorrow is especially important because from tomorrow, every Australian worker gets another tax cut. Every Australian worker gets another tax cut. On top of the tax cuts we have already brought in, and in addition to the tax cuts which are coming for working Australians, and all of them opposed by the three right-wing parties opposite. You see, we know those opposite have consistently voted against tax cuts for working people. But, President, we're not only focused on making sure Australians earn more and keep more of what they earn, we're also making sure people have more when they retire through payday super. We're supporting Australians at the checkout with our ban on excessive grocery pricing coming to effect with a strengthened ACCC to hold the big supermarkets to account. Motorists will continue to get more relief at the Bowser with a 16% litre cut to the fuel excise for all of July, and we are backing small business by permanently extending the $20,000 instant asset write-off. This government is delivering real cost of living relief, and measures that are kicking in from tomorrow demonstrate our commitment to supporting every Australian.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Tyrrell, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. I'm sure everybody in my state of Tasmania will be glad to hear about the further cost of living help that's coming from tomorrow. It's actually not my state, it's my home state. Could the Minister provide more detail on how the Albanese Labor government is supporting working families right across Australia?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Well, we are proud to support working families, and in particular we are proud that it is a Labor government many years ago, which first legislated paid parental leave, and it is now a Labor government that is ensuring that paid parental leave is extended to a full 26 weeks, because this provides support and certainty to families and parents caring for their children, with even more time for parents to cherish those precious early months. So from tomorrow, almost 2.7 million Australian workers will benefit from a 6% increase to the national minimum wage and a 4.75% increase to the modern award wages. The first time the national minimum wage is above $1,000 a week. And I'll take the interjection from the Leader of the Opposition, who is again criticising wage increases. Well, we know what they're about: lower wages. We're about higher wages.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Tyrrell, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. As the Minister has explained, helping Australians with the cost of living and delivering real change is one of the Albanese Labor government's highest priorities. Can the Minister please outline if there are any risks to the government's plans to help Australians get ahead?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. And we've got tax cuts benefiting every Australian worker, cost of living relief for every Australian household, real reform for every young Australian who has been locked out of the housing market for too long. And there is more to do, but we have achieved that despite the best efforts of the right-wing parties, the three right-wing parties, to block it. Because last week the three right-wing parties voted against tax cuts for every Australian worker. And we know, famously, Senator Hume described these tax cuts as egregious. Egregious. And that is really hardly surprising that when you remember that the Nationals and the Liberals went to the last election promising they would unwind the tax cuts for working people. So not only are they calling tax cuts now egregious, had they been elected, they would have ensured they unwound the tax cuts for working people. It is only the Labor Party that is focused on making real change.
Thank you, Minister Wong. The time for answering has expired. Senator Canavan.
President, my question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Last weekend, Minister Wong, Sydney recorded its lowest auction clearance rates since April 2020, at the very start of the pandemic, falling below 50%. Melbourne recorded its lowest clearance rate since 2021, during the world's longest lockdowns. Will the minister admit that Labor's tax changes have shattered confidence in our property market to the point where even first-home buyers are staying away?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Our changes are about backing first-home buyers. And I would remind the Senate that house prices have increased, I think, around 400% since 2000 and 58% since 2020. And what that means is that first-home buyers have found it much harder to enter the market. And I think senators who engage with the community will know that that is the case. Increasingly, housing. Owning your own home has been out of reach for too many Australians. Well, we are determined to fix that. We have been determined to fix that because we know the status quo was not sustainable. It was not sustainable. Now, what I would make a couple of points. That many factors influence the housing market, not just tax settings. I note that auction clearance rates were declining before the budget. Obviously, a number of factors influence the housing market. I would refer again to the Treasury forecasts, which assume house prices will continue to grow and that the changes in the budget mean that house prices will be around 2% lower than they would otherwise have been. Now, I would note, Senator Bragg, that Senator Bragg himself has said that house prices are too high. I note that he said that. Well, we are seeking, through the tax changes that we have made, to level the playing field when it comes to first-home buyers, because we want more young Australians to get their own home.
Senator Canavan, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Brisbane's auction clearance rates are down from 53% to 40% from last year, and Adelaide's are down from 64% to 49%. Has the government modelled the impact that falling property values and declining confidence in our property markets could have on household wealth bank lending practices and the broader Australian economy?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I again would make the point that many factors influence the housing market, and I'd refer back again to what Treasury has said. And I know you have an interest in trying to find a political point. The reality is the housing market was broken. Anyone who spoke to engage with young people who are trying to get into the market would know that. We want people to have the same opportunities so many of us had to own our own home. And what we have done is change the tax system so people have more of that opportunity. I would again make the point, Senator Bragg himself said—
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Madam President. Just on relevance with less than 20 seconds left, the question went to, has the government looked at the risks of this happening, not the statements of others?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. And the minister is being relevant to your question. Minister, please continue.
Well, in fact, I think I responded to that directly, Senator. I think I did respond to it directly, and I know that you want, to say the sky is falling, because that's what desperate right-wing opposition parties do, but we do not. The sky is not
Minister.
falling.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Canavan, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. Minister, yesterday your colleague Minister Plibersek claimed that hundreds of thousands of Australians have entered the housing market thanks to the government's 5% deposit scheme. How many of those Australians are now in negative equity because of the government's broken promises, its housing tax changes and the consequent fall in confidence in property markets?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, Ms Plibersek was right. The figures I have here are that some 260,000 first-home buyers with 5% deposits have been helped into the system. So, Senator, they are many thousands of Australians who would not have entered the property market but for what the Labor government has done, which you opposed. I mean, this is what you actually are opposed to us trying to get more young people into the market. I mean, it is quite remarkable that those opposite don't want more young Australians to have the opportunities that all of you have had, or so many of you, to own your own home. You know, if you sit in this place, you can see that the coalition really is averse to government trying to ensure that more young Australians own their own home. Well, I don't think Australians are where you're at.
Order. Order. I advise the chamber that the Greens and Senator Pocock have swapped their questions, so I'm going to call Senator David Pocock.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Transport. Minister, this morning I met with Queen and Christiana, both former Carnival Cruise crew members. These young women told me how they were forced to work for just $2.50 an hour, well below Australian minimum wages, and the only reason they were forced to accept such a pittance for their labour is because the Albanese government gave Carnival's Australian ships a ministerial exemption from the Coastal Trading Act. Minister, how can your government support same job, same pay, but stand by and see these workers paid so much less in Australian waters?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Pocock for his question. Of course, the government does support same job, same pay, and it was the Albanese government that introduced that legislation, and it's now working very, very well. But in respect of particular issues that relate to the Carnival cruise line, the Maritime Labour Convention of 2006 provides standards and regulations relating to seafarer welfare, including a base standard of rights and protections, aimed at creating a secure working environment for those in the maritime industry. The AMSA, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, plays a key role in enforcing international maritime safety and labour standards, including the Maritime Labour Convention. The AMSA applies a zero-tolerance approach to breaches of the Maritime Labour Convention and has the authority to issue deficiencies, detain vessels or prohibit ships from operating in Australian waters. The authority routinely acts on issues such as the payment of wages, conditions of employment and workplace health and safety. Individuals or organisations aware of any concerns or potential breaches of the Maritime Labour Convention are encouraged to promptly notify the authority so that they can investigate and take appropriate responses. The authority investigates all complaints, receives and takes appropriate regulatory action where warranted. Complaints may be lodged directly through the authority established complaints process by seafarers and by seafarer representatives, and I saw some of them around the building this morning. The Albanese government.
Minister, the time for answering has expired. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister, for the explanation. But my question is why your government has given Carnival an exemption from Australian labour laws for ships that are based here in Australia and operate here in Australia in Australian waters.
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thanks Senator Pocock for his first supplementary question. Of course, I'm not the minister in charge of these issues. We have a wonderful minister, and Minister King, who is in charge. I shall convey your question to her and seek a prompt response so that I can come back to you with the correct answer. Senator Pocock.
Thank you, Minister Farrell. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. I appreciate that and look forward to hearing that answer. My understanding is that this exemption is renewed annually. Can the government give any indication or commitment that they will not renew this, so that we'll have people working on ships in Australian waters that stay in Australian waters actually paid an award rate in Australia?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. Thank Senator Pocock for his second supplementary question. Again, this is not an issue that I am familiar with, but I shall very promptly seek a response from Minister King, and will come back to you at the earliest opportunity with the answers. Thank you, Senator Pocock.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health and Ageing, Senator McAllister. We on this side of the chamber hear every day how important a strong and affordable health system is to the communities we represent. Tomorrow, the Albanese Labor government rolls out further measures to help every Australian access affordable health care, from hospital care through to urgent care for non-life-threatening conditions. How is the government delivering real change for Australians by investing in our public health system after a decade of cuts and neglect?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Brown, because tomorrow is an important day, and I am glad that you asked about it. Tomorrow, the Albanese Labor government is delivering record funding for our public hospitals. $25 billion in additional funding for public hospitals, Senator. And that is for the doctors and for the nurses who are the backbone of our public health system. It's for the AMBOs and the allied health workers who show up every single day to support everyday Australians. And in your home state, Senator Brown, Tasmanians will receive $5.1 billion in total funding for hospitals over the next 5 years. Now, we're clear about what we need to fix. The previous government, the Liberal government, spent a decade neglecting our hospital system. Many senators on the benches opposite were part of a government that cut $50 billion from the hospital system that Australians depend on. And this government is delivering 3 times more additional funding for public hospitals than under the last 5-year agreement. That is what real change looks like. That is what delivering real change means. And that's not all. Not only are we investing in hospital care, we are ensuring that there is a permanent option for Australians to go for medical care when they need it most. Last week I told the chamber how the Albanese Labor government has delivered every single one of our 137 urgent care clinics across the country. And from July 1, every single one of those will be permanent. Every single one of them. Bulk billed for every Australian. And that does mean that a mum with a sick child on the weekend has somewhere to go. It means that a tradie with a bad cut doesn't have to sit in ED for hours, and it means our hospitals can focus on the patients that need them most. And this is what Labor governments do. We deliver real change for Australians.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Brown, first supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister. The Albanese Labor government is not only committed to ensuring Australians get the care they need in our hospitals and urgent care clinics, it is also focused on making more medicines cheaper. How is the government helping Australians access more medicines at a lower cost from tomorrow?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Brown. July is a big month for cheaper medicines. 10 new listings are giving Australians expanded access to even cheaper medicines on the PBS, all for no more than $25. And let me tell you a bit more about what that means. Around 18,500 Australians with severe, uncontrolled asthma can now benefit from a new treatment that lowers the risk of asthma attacks. Today, Australians may have to pay $1,600 per injection every week. From tomorrow, just $25. A nasal spray for the emergency treatment of anaphylaxis. Today, Australians could be paying more than $95 per pat. From tomorrow, a maximum of $25. And it doesn't stop there. Australians with type 1 diabetes, lung cancer and rare blood cancer will also have access to expanded treatments on the PBS tomorrow.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown, second supplementary.
Thank you, President, and again thank you, Minister, for that answer. When it comes to getting quality health care, all you should need is your Medicare, not your credit card. Why is the Albanese Labor government making these investments to deliver quality health care to Australians? Why has the government chosen this approach?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister McAllister.
It's green and gold.
Thank you, President. Well, this Labor government believes in a simple principle. When you are sick, all you should need is your Medicare card, not your credit card. And we have backed our beliefs, backed those beliefs with a record investment in hospital funding and in Medicare. And what have those opposite done? On the one side, we have the coalition led by their current leader, the member for Hume, who just didn't support cuts to health. He actually wanted the cuts to health to go further. In 2015, he said cost-cutting programs can be painful and always involve hard trade-offs. And then he continued to say that this work needed to extend across the entire health systems. Well, Australians know who bore the costs of those trade-offs. It was them. And maybe it is time for those opposite to consider my counterpart sage advice. Maybe it is time for a rebrand. Maybe a rebrand that would see you finally support public health, because you don't at the moment.
Has expired. I advise the chamber that Senator Lambie has passed her question to Senator Ruston. Senator Ruston.
Thank you. Thank you, President. My question is also to the Minister representing the Minister for Aged Care, Senator McAllister. Can the Minister confirm how many pensioners will lose their private health insurance rebate, additional rebate, under Labor's $11 billion tax on older Australians?
Thank you, Senator Ruston. Minister McAllister.
Yeah.
I called you. Sorry, Senator McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, Senator, Labor is investing over $3 billion in delivering more aged care beds, more packages and better care for older Australians in this budget, in the 26-27 budget. And to fund this investment into aged care, the government will return the PHI rebate for older Australians back to the same level paid by everyone else. and we do understand that it will not
Minister,
be.
please resume your seat. Senator Ruston.
Thank you. A point of order on relevance, President. I simply asked how many pensioners will be affected by this change. Nothing else.
Thank you, Senator Ruston. The Minister was getting to your question, and I'll continue to listen carefully. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President. Well, the additional rebate is simply not the best way to spend precious taxpayer dollars on behalf of older Australians when we do need to do so much lifting, heavy lifting in aged care. And the approach that we are taking will restore fairness to the rebate system and will free up funding to provide more dignity and care to older Australians.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Ruston.
Again, on a point of relevance, President. If the minister doesn't know how many pensioners—
Thank you, Senator Ruston. I don't need— I hear that you've raised an objection. The minister is being relevant. I'm going to ask the minister to continue. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President. So, under the proposed changes, all Australians will now receive the same private health support based on their income, not their age. And over 65s, all over 65s, will still receive significant government subsidised discounts of up to 24% on the premiums that private health insurers charge them, the same as the rest of the population. And the average impact on those 65 years
McAllister,
and older—
please thank you. Senator Ruston.
Once again, on a point of relevance, President, I would ask you to direct the minister to answering the question about how many pensioners will be affected. I ask nothing else.
Thank you, Senator Ruston. As you absolutely understand, I can't put words into the minister's mouth. That's what you're asking me to do. The minister is being relevant, and I'll invite the minister to continue. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. These are important changes, and they're important changes that allow investments that are necessary into the aged care system. And so $3 billion will be invested in delivering more aged care beds, delivering more packages and better care for older Australians through the 26-27 budget.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ruston, first supplementary.
Thank you very much, President. Private Health Australia estimates couples over the age of 65 on gold cover will face up to $1,614 in additional costs from April 2027, the largest increase in private health costs on record. How does the minister expect Australian pensioners on fixed incomes to absorb that cost?
Thank you, Senator Ruston. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. We understand that this will not be a welcome change for many people, but we also understand that the investments that we propose to secure the future of the aged care system are important. The government has made difficult choices to ensure that we can make the investments that Australians expect, and our investments will build on the changes that we delivered in our first term that incentivise the construction of beds for aged care residents. They will give providers the certainty that they need to build and maintain quality residential accommodation. They will make support at home fairer and more affordable for older Australians, and they will continue the government's work to set the aged care system up for generations to come. People over age 65 and over currently do receive greater government subsidised discounts on their premiums than younger people on the same income. This has become a hard policy to defend.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Ruston,
Thank you, President. Linda is a pensioner who is living on $29,000 a year who told ABC Radio she already, and I quote, struggles like mad to pay her private health insurance to keep herself out of emergency departments. Minister, why should Linda be forced to struggle even more just to fix Labor's budget mess? How's that fair?
Good. Thank you, Senator Ruston. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. And it's always difficult to comment on an individual case when I don't know all of the circumstances around that face Linda. But I will say this, that all people over the age of 65
Minister McAllister, please resume your seat. Senator Cash and Senator Ruston, stop interjecting. I can't be clearer than that. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. Under the proposed changes, all Australians will now receive the same private health support based on their income, not their age. Over 65s will still receive significant government subsidised discounts of up to 24% on the premiums that private health insurers charge them, and that is the same as the rest of the population.
Order.
As I indicated in my answer to your primary question, the average impact on those 65 years and older is less than $1 a day, an average of $250 a year.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Shoebridge.
Thanks so much, President. My question is to Senator Wong, the Minister representing the Prime Minister. Minister, Palantir builds the tools that ICE uses to deport people from the US. It's been linked to targeting in Gaza, and yet your government has just handed a multi-million-dollar defence contract with no tender to Palantir. What would it take for your government to have the leadership to say no to Palantir?
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Minister Wong.
Senator, I understand that you are asking me about a defence procurement. I don't have any further information in relation to that particular contract, but I'll see what I can provide to you on notice.
Senator Shoebridge, first supplementary.
Well, Minister, the Greens have called for an immediate moratorium on new Palantir contracts and a full public audit of every existing one, with the findings to be tabled in Parliament. Given your government can't point to a single ethics or risk assessment of Palantir, given how little you seem to know about it, will you commit today to a moratorium on all further contracts with this noxious corporation and a review of those already signed? And if not, why not?
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Minister Wong.
You're correct, Senator. I do represent the Minister for Defence. I'm not the Minister for Defence, and no, I don't have a detailed knowledge of this contract, so, and that is not unusual. I understand from Senator McAllister that you did ask some questions about this at Senate estimates, where Senator McAllister represents the Minister for Defence. As I said in my earlier answer, if I can find further information for you on notice, I will do so.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Shoebridge, second supplement.
Thanks, Minister. And to assist, your government has spent around $60 million of public money on contracts with Palantir. The Future Fund under your government holds more than $160 million worth of shares in the company, and yet not a single document has been provided to the public assessing whether this is ethical or responsible. Can you confirm that no ethics or risk assessment has ever been conducted on Palantir by your government? And if so, how can your government claim it has exercised due diligence over a US-owned company embedded inside defence?
The time for asking the question has expired. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, you would be aware that we do have procurement arrangements and a procurement framework which goes to some of the issues you've identified, but I refer you to my earlier answer, which is I will provide information if I can obtain it to you.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister for Environment and Water, Senator Watt. I refer to the deal between your government and the Greens to change the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act and strip farmers of the continuous use of exemption for vegetation not cleared in the previous 15 years. Why do you impose this on farmers but not on wind turbines constructed in rainforests and native Queensland habitats?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Hanson, for the question. Unfortunately, Senator Hanson is wrong in her question.
Order.
It is correct that in the EPBC reforms that we passed last year, we did remove an exemption that had applied under the previous legislation, which simply means that farmers now who wish to clear their land, in particular regrowth vegetation that's been there for 15 years or more, will simply have to comply with the same rules that those who are seeking to build wind farms solar farms,
Order.
even coal mines, which I know is something that Senator Hanson says that she's a fan of as well. So what we've done is simply level the playing field to say that the agriculture sector must follow the same rules as every other sector. Senator Canavan, I know you're upset that Senator Hanson beat you to the punch in asking this question, and that yet again we see Senator Hanson muscle in on what was once National Party territory. Senator Canavan managed to do a press conference with AgForce, but it's Senator Hanson who beats him to the punch to ask a question in the chamber. So I understand, Senator Canavan, that you're very upset about losing relevance in the bush.
Order.
I understand you're upset. But I might answer Senator Hanson's question.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Come to order. Senator Canavan! Senator Canavan, you're not in a debate with me. Senator Canavan, I will name you. Minister Watt, please continue.
I mean, it's interesting. Senator Canavan actually had a question today, and he didn't ask about farmers there, and that's because we all remember that wasn't that long ago when Senator Canavan was saying that farmers were no longer the core constituency of the National Party, and Senator Hanson's now trying to butt in on that.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Scarr.
Direct relevance.
Senator Scarr, I should not have to remind the chamber that if senators make interjections, the minister is entitled to take those interjections. But, Minister Watt, I am going to draw you back to Senator Hanson's question. Thank you.
Senator Hanson, as I was saying, in fact, what we are requiring is nothing different of farmers than we have required for a very long time of renewables developers, mining developers, property developers. It's the same standard that applies for every industry.
Thank you. Senator Hanson, before I call you, order. 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 Senator Canavan. Senator Canavan. I remind the chamber I drew the minister to order, and Senator Canavan, I drew you to order. Sadly, you were so busy interjecting, you didn't seem to hear me. I'm simply asking that no, Senator Canavan, no. No, you don't. You're not in a debate. I'm running the chamber. Senator Canavan, I will name you. Jackie, what's the section? And you are persistently defying the standing order. If you continue to think that you can stand up and make an argument with me, I will use that standing order. Make no mistake. Now, I'm going to remind the chamber this is Senator Hanson's question and not to interject. Senator Hanson, first supplementary.
Minister, I totally reject everything you just said then, and I refer to the wide destruction of native vegetation at Cumbia in Queensland in order to make way for almost 100 wind turbines, 290 metres tall, and long-term plans to construct more than 30,000 such turbines across this continent. When will you acknowledge the double standards imposed on farmers in your government's unending war on Australian agriculture?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Well, Senator Hanson, you might reject what I've just said, but what I've actually just said is the facts, and it's the law. Now, Senator Hanson, it wasn't that long ago that your party was demanding that this government do something about hate preachers, and then you came to Canberra and voted against legislation to do something about hate preachers. So your consistency—
Order. Order on my right. Order. Senator Hanson.
Relevance, that's got absolutely nothing to do with my question.
Thank you, Senator Hanson. I will draw the minister back to your question, and I'll also ask those on my right to listen in respectful silence. Minister, I'll draw you back to the question. Thank you.
Thanks, President. So, Senator Hanson, you say that we have imposed some sort of double standard. What we've actually done is ask farmers to comply with exactly the same regulations that every other industry has had to comply with for the last 25 years. Mining companies, renewables companies, property developers, anyone else who proposes a project that is likely to have a significant impact on the environment is required to have a federal assessment, and that's now what we're asking of farmers in some situations. Now, the other thing worth remembering, Senator Hanson, is that one of the reasons we've done this is to protect the Great Barrier Reef, which in our state supplies 77,000 jobs in the regional communities that you claim you represent.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson, second supplementary. Order across the chamber. Order.
Minister, just reference to the Great Barrier Reef. It is in pristine condition and is going to double its coal by 2050. Now, Minister, why is your government destroying our natural environment in order to save it?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Well, Senator Hanson, you might not care about the Great Barrier Reef and the 77,000 jobs in Australia that rely on it and the $9 billion in economic turnover that it produces every year, but Labor certainly does. We want to hang on to those jobs that are in Cairns, in Townsville, in Mackay, in Airlie Beach, even in Gladstone, as far south as Bundaberg. We want to protect those jobs, and one of the ways that we're doing it is by requiring regulation of land clearing that occurs in the Great Barrier Reef catchment. Now, again, we saw Senator Canavan very upset about Senator Hanson beating him to the punch on this question. The problem for Senator Canavan is for the last few years he, more than anyone, has enabled Senator Hanson, and now he's paying the price.
Thank you, Minister. I think the minister has concluded. Thank you, Senator Hanson. Senator Ciccone. Senator Hanson, I'll just check to see if he's have you concluded your answer?
Just a little bit more, thanks to the 9. The 4 seconds should be enough. Senator Hanson, we will stand up for farmers, for agriculture and the Great Barrier Reef.
Thank you, Minister. The time has now expired. Senator Ciccone.
Thank you, President. President, my question is to the minister that is representing the Treasurer, that's Senator Gallagher. Now, as we know, President, tomorrow is July 1 and the next lot of income tax cuts starts, and this is very good news for many, many Australian workers. It's the latest of 5 tax cuts, actually, that the Albanese government is delivering, and when fully rolled out, a worker on average earnings stands to be around $2,800 better off. Now, how are these tax cuts, Minister, and other cost-of-living help arriving on 1 July making a difference for working people and their families?
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much, President. I thank Senator Ciccone for the question. And again, all the work that's done on this side of the chamber to make sure that when the 1st of July rolls around tomorrow, that we've got a whole range of supports flowing through to Australians to assist with cost of living. Of course, we've got the tax cut that those opposite voted against that will come in on July 1. Every Australian tax payer will get a tax cut from July 1 this year. From July next year, 1st of July, we will reduce the 16% tax rate
Senator Bragg.
To 15% on July 2026, with another one to come next year. We've also passed that important legislation to help more Australians into the dream of home ownership. We've got the Working Australian Tax Offset. Again, Senator Bragg voted against that to provide a permanent annual tax offset of up to $250 for every working Australian taxpayer. The $1,000 instant deduction, no receipts. Again, those opposite voted against that to allow workers to deduct up to $1,000 off their taxable income without providing receipts. And we know that with the changes, while the changes to negative gearing, CGT and trust don't impact the majority of people, they help support the investment that we are making in 13 million Australian workers with those tax cuts coming in. We will also have the national minimum wage, which will increase by 6%, and modern award wages will increase by 4.75%, following the annual wage review decision, of which we provided a submission in support of a real wage increase. Around 2.6 million Australians will also benefit from indexation of a range of social security payments and thresholds. Workers will also benefit from having super paid at the same time as their salary and wages, and of course the work that we've been doing to ban excessive pricing in supermarkets.
Has expired. Senator Ciccone, first supplementary.
Thanks, Minister, for that very thorough answer. Now, From 1 July, the Albanese government will also deliver another first, and that is paid parental leave for a full 6 months, with superannuation also to be paid to ensure that parents don't lose out in their retirement. Minister, how is this PPL expansion supporting parents to share their care and stay connected to work, and what does it mean for parents' retirement savings over the long term?
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Ciccone for that question. And as a parent of a young Australian, these issues around paid parental leave and making them work for families have been central to our thinking about sensible reforms that could be made to PPL, not only to make sure that families are getting the right extended time, so going to full 6 months, but as Senator Ciccone said, also making sure that super is paid on PPL. We on this side of the chamber thought it was a problem that we had an employment condition, essentially the only employment condition that didn't have super paid on it, and we have fixed that with the investments that we've made. We're also making it easier for families to share care under those arrangements. We know more and more dads or the second parent in those relationships are wanting to spend time with their babies as well, and our changes to PPL do that. And we always look ways to help people with caring responsibilities.
Senator Ciccone, second supplementary.
Thanks again, President. Now, bless you. Now, from tax cuts to expanded PPL, this government is helping many working Australians with the cost of living, even when some in this chamber have failed to back these important supports for these families. How will the government continue this work, Minister, and so that many Australians can continue to earn more and keep more of what they earn?
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Ciccone for that supplementary as well. Well, this government is focusing on real change for Australians. More tax cuts, 6 months of paid parental leave, making it easier for first home buyers to get into a home, our investments to make Medicare stronger, keeping our kids safe online. I think it's very clear from what we have delivered over our term in government that addressing cost of living help for households is our #1 priority. Our 5 tax cuts, once fully implemented, will mean that the average working Australian will be $2,800 better off every year from 2028. This is in addition to that, we have our investments in Medicare, cheaper medicine, cheaper childcare, free TAFE, our home batteries program, help to buy, 5% deposits. All of these investments are about making life easier for Australians, particularly when they're feeling under pressure, and we'll continue to focus on all measures to do that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Little.
President, my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Aged Care, Senator McAllister. 91-year-old John Wilson spent the final months of his life waiting for care. Your government had already assessed he needed. His family repeatedly warned my aged care that he would die before help arrived. They were right. John died at the end of April. Months later, the day after his funeral, his family received a letter approving his package. The government's own figures, quietly released on budget night, show the median wait for assessment in receiving a support-at-home package is now 12 months. Minister, how many more older Australians will die waiting for your care from your government that you already promised them?
Thank you, Senator Little. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator, for that question. Senator, it is always sad to hear about an older Australian who has died, and it is always sad to hear about an older Australian who has died waiting for care. It underlines the reason why the reforms that we are making to the aged care system are so significant and so important. We know that older Australians have spent their lives caring for their children, building communities, contributing to this country, and they deserve to live the rest of their lives with dignity and respect and love. And it is why we are making the reforms that we are making. Of course, we come to government with significant work to do because the previous government, the Liberal government that so many people on the opposition benches were part of cut $2.5 billion out of the sector, and they failed
Minister,
to
please
meet.
resume your seat. I've called for order 2 or 3 times. Show respect. Order. Order. If you have so much to say, put your name on the adjournment list tonight. But right now, in question time, their interjections need to stop. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. Those opposite were part of a government that cut $2.5 billion from the sector. They failed
Minister
to meet.
McAllister, please resume your seat. Senator Little.
Relevance. How many more will die?
The minister is being relevant to your question, Senator Little, and I'll continue to listen carefully. Minister.
Thank you, President. Those opposite failed to meet the growing need for home
Senator
care.
Colbeck. That's why we had a Royal Commission. Please continue. Order. Minister McAllister, please continue.
And the Royal Commission, President, revealed what was happening on their watch.
That's right.
Neglect. Aged care workers could get paid more stacking shelves than looking after older Australians, and we know that investments are necessary. We want older Australians to have the freedom, the support and the choices that they ask for to remain at home and to stay in the community.
Thank you, Minister. The
love.
time for answering has expired. Senator Little, first supplementary.
Thank you. John Wilson's ordeal began long before he died. His first assessment was conducted over the phone. Despite being nearly blind in one eye, unable to walk without a frame, unable to dress himself and unable to even cut up his own food, he was assessed as needing only entry-level help. Minister, how could your system look at a 91-year-old man in that condition and decide he needed only the most basic level of care?
I would like to call the minister to answer the question, but I'm not going to do that until there's silence. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. President, it's not possible for me to speak in any detail about the circumstances put to me by Senator Little, and I appreciate her interest in these issues and bringing them to the chamber, but I do want to speak a little about the approach that we are taking to assessment, because the old assessment approach was not working. The system overseen by those on the other side was not working. It was taking too long.
Minister, please resume your seat. I have asked since the very first question for those on my left to listen in silence, and you're showing me great disrespect and you're completely ignoring me as the President of this chamber. If you can't listen in silence, leave the chamber. Minister, please continue.
The old assessment system was not working. It took too long, it was inaccurate, and it was producing very unfair outcomes to older people all across the country. That is why—
Minister, please resume your seat. My goodness. Senator Scarr, I don't know what possessed you then to interject loudly, and you, Senator Colbeck, after I just explained how disrespectful you were to me. Leave the chamber. I shouldn't have to name senators on my left, but I will. Minister McAllister, please continue.
To be clear about the problem, President, the old system resulted in older people with the same needs receiving very different outcomes depending on where they lived and who did their assessment. It led to very high volumes of high-priority ratings, with some organisations approving more than 50%.
Senator Little, second supplementary.
Your own department confirmed at Senate estimates that 1 in 4 aged care assessments are conducted over the phone, using an assessment tool that has never been independently validated and that assessors cannot override when it gets the answer wrong. Minister, if this system failed John Wilson so catastrophically, how can you tell older Australians and their families that it is not failing thousands more right now?
Thank you, Senator Little. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, there is a lot of misinformation about the approach that the government is taking, and it is worth getting some of the facts on the record. There are people involved in every single step of the assessment process. The assessment is conducted by trained assessors, human beings who are highly skilled, who work with older people to understand what their functional needs are and what the evolution of those needs might look like, so that we can make determinations about the sort of care that will be appropriate for that person. Of course, there is an opportunity at the end of these processes for a person to look at the result. A second person looks at the outcome of the assessment. That person is called the assessor delegate. They look at that outcome to make sure that it is right before the outcome is signed off. And there is now a further safeguard whereby delegates can send assessments back to assessors if it is clear that there has been an error in the inputs during that assessment.
Has expired. Minister Wong.
President, I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Thank you.